Hello and welcome back to the channel with me, the Orienteering Kid, where today we're in Lullaford for the 4th round of the Hungarian TORUS trophy. Now, as you can probably already see, there's a slight change to today's video as you can't see me because my camera has decided it doesn't want to work, so we're just going to have to work with it for today. But for this event we are in the Hanging Garden, another place in Hungary, as we are on our tour during these monthly events, of course, which is set by Zoltan again this time, with Jana Kostova and Jan Faruk's advising. And I'm sure, like the other events he has planned in this series, it is going to be great fun. All the terrain is going to be challenging, but I'm sure whether we do well or not, we're going to learn a lot out of this. Now, I probably should mention that for last month's events, there were quite a lot of complaints about the event, specifically around 3 stations, Station 1, 5 and 7. And Station 5 was voided, but the other 2 were left up. However, that did increase my score in that event, enough so for me to take the lead ahead of Pavel now, and he moved down into 2nd place. I didn't really notice any more major changes in the leaderboard from that though, so I am now in 1st again going into this 4th event, and we will have to see whether I'm able to hold on to it after today. But with that, let's just have a go at it as we go into the Hungarian TORUS trophy section, and we are going into event 4, which today has a 1 to 3000 map with 2.5 metre contours, and there are 8 stations with a 30-second penalty for every wrong answer, and the zero tolerance is 4 metres, no side problems. The terrain is a hanging garden, park and dolomite rocks. I'm not quite sure what dolomite rocks are, but I guess we'll work that out as we go. And also we have the instructions with a black cross being the playground elements. It's good to see they are telling us this time what the black crosses are. I think that's really useful to do. But that is all the information we have got, and I'm really looking forward to it. As always, my answers will be appearing in the top right hand corner of the screen, so you can see exactly what I'm putting, correct or wrong, with the black and red letters respectively at the moment that I do. And yeah, with that, let's have a go at this 4th event in the Hungarian TORUS trophy. And here is Station 1. Okay, well, so cliffs and crags. There's possibly a path on the left hand side as well. To me, that's not looking like the... Oh, actually, we're there. So that wall is going to be Bravo, with the stones there. Struggling to see that path. But I don't think anything's there. And then in the cave for Delta, up to the paved area, which I'm going to say is Echo, and across the corner, I believe that's also a 0. And that did take me a small while of 35 seconds, but I did think that was quite a hard station to open in on, especially since I didn't quite think we were in the right place there to start with. But I did manage to notice the cave coming out of the rock pillar, and the paths did match around, and so we were able to place, I think it was Bravo to start off that station. And then the second task was the one I had to think about the most there, I think. Whether it was Echo, Foxtrot or Zeros, I couldn't quite make out the detail on that side of the photo, but I was eventually happy to say that that one was a 0, as I think Echo and Foxtrot were too far back, and we did go to Echo for the 4th task before the final one was another 0, as I think it was too far to the left out the photo. And I did think that was quite a tough Station 1, but we are now ready for the difficulty to expect as we go into Station 2. Okay, rock on the sides, there's a couple of rock bits, there's also a massive tree. I'm presuming that's the massive tree, that's the crags, that crag corner, looks like it is Charlie. And then that earth wall by the tree, foot of it must be Echo. In the corners at the back, I'm going to go with Alpha there. That boulder could easily be Delta. I'm going to go with Delta, and then the crag southern end does look like Bravo to finish off the station, and I don't think there were any 0s there, and we didn't use Foxtrot either, so I think it was just the Alpha to Echo as those 5 kites, because everything seemed to match up quite nicely. We obviously started with Charlie on the corner of the crag, and then came forward to Echo on the earth wall. After spotting the distinctive tree by Echo, I was quite surprised to see that Charlie was so far back on the map by the crags, but I think those 2 did seem to come together quite nicely. And then also going back to Alpha, that's possibly the one I'm the most sceptical about, as I couldn't quite see the corner in the rock, but I think that was in about the right place before coming to Delta as well on the boulder, and also Bravo to finish off on the southern part of that crag. So I do think that was a no 0 station. It'll be interesting to see afterwards though, and we'll just move straight on now into Station 3. Okay, we're now in a more urban bit. There's Charlie Delta nicely labelled, paths and buildings. That corner then must be Bravo. Out the back there, I feel like we can't see that, so that's going to be a 0. Up forward onto the wall must be Foxtrot. Down there, I can believe that being Alpha, and that wall we also surely cannot see. And that's my fastest station so far. As it was a more urban area, I was probably a bit more comfortable in it, although I did have to think a lot about that second task, whether it's going to be Delta or not. Charlie was way too far forward, but I think the task should have been more to the left behind the building, so it couldn't have been Delta, and it was in fact a 0, as well as that final task, which is probably too far down the hill on the right hand side, so it'd be Echo, and we'd already been to Foxtrot for the third one. And then those were the 2 zeros, I'm pretty sure, with Bravo and Alpha being quite nicely placed in the corners of the paved area we wanted. And I don't really have anything else to say about that station, because I did find that fairly simple. And so if we are moving more into the urban area, this should be a bit better for me as we round off the first half of the day with station 4. Okay, there's the 6 kites. It's the trees at the back, and there's a hedgy bit, to which I think we can't see that, although I may be wrong. Oh, there's the stairs. That, yeah, we definitely can't see that, but not why I thought. Open land is going to be Foxtrot. That tree down there is going to be Charlie. All the way in there, I feel like is a 0, and that tree, can I believe that's... Yeah, I can believe that's Delta. And that was a bit more of a harder station actually, as quite a lot of the detail was further away, and it was another 0 out the photo to start off the station, which did trick me a bit as I was looking at the hedge above the circle and thinking that was too far to the left hand side, but then realised where we actually were and that it was still a 0, but because it was out the other end of the photo. And so that was definitely a 0 before coming up to Foxtrot. We knew we were definitely in the right place there, and also Charlie on the tree. It was the 4th task, which I think was also a 0, with Bravo being on the wrong bit of land. That was quite hard to spot, but I think going in line with the Charlie tree was quite nice, and also the final task being Delta or not made me think even more, as I was expecting there to be a tree between Charlie and Delta, but I think it was far enough around to be the correct tree. And I'm happy with that one ending off the first half of the day, so we are just going to move straight over the halfway point and go into station 5. Okay, we've now got play equipment in front of us, black cross and a building at the back as well, and that black cross, so that's the canopy, so that's got to be behind us. Or at least I think it is. This is quite a weird photo. 3 trees. So if that's the 3 trees, there must be a canopy behind there. And so I think that's not Alpha. At the back there on the tree must be Delta, and that must again be the wrong tree, and another 0 there. And I do think I might have put 4 zeros there for that station, which isn't impossible, but something about that photo was throwing me a bit. It just felt a bit too wide angled, but I was confident the first task was behind us. It was the second task I spent a long time on. However, noticing the bush to the left hand side of Alpha, for Alpha to be on the bridge, we wanted the bush to be the right hand side of Alpha, so I think I could have done that a lot quicker. Saying it was a 0 as it didn't feel quite right anyway. The third task was definitely Delta though, on the right side of the tree, and then the 4th task coming back to a tree which I think was behind us again. I just wanted to check that I wasn't wrong for the first task, but I think I definitely was right, and so it was another 0 before the final task going back to the fence at the back, and I think there were no kites near that again, so I think that was 4 zeros for that station, and that is my longest time station so far, ignoring any errors I may have made, but I think that was just because the photo was throwing me a bit, so I don't think that station was too bad, and I think 4 zeros are probably clear there, but it does look like we are going more park area now as we do go into the next station of the day, which is station 6. Okay, walls around us, Charlie at the back, forget that, and don't forget that, and Alpha Bravo. That corner of a wall, so that one must be Echo, and that feels too far away. Yeah, that's definitely too far away. That wall or stairs is Bravo, and that's too far down again, before then coming up to Alpha to finish off that station. And that being my quickest station, I'm surprised, because I was thrown a bit by the second task. Even though I was confident with Echo for the first one, we did jump quite far for that second task, but I think it was definitely too far down the hill, similar to the fourth task, which was also too far down the hill, as I had quite nicely placed that Charlie turret, or the square shape, on the map. And so after that, it came up quite nicely that it was Bravo and Alpha for the third and fifth tasks, and they were just trying to throw us and maybe think some of them were Echo and Foxtrot in the second and fourth task and try and confuse us. But I did think that was quite a nice station, jumping back and forth. We need to have a couple which throw you a bit, but I am happy with my answers there again. So we will just move now on to the penultimate station of the day, which is station 7. Okay, we're more in the forest again now with the rocks. There seems to be a massive rock by Delta. Oh crikey, is that a cave? Yeah, I can see a cave by Delta coming forward though. I think that's too far forward, and that crag does look like it's Echo. That boulder, and I believe that's Bravo. Oh no, Alpha. And then Charlie there as well to finish off the station, and we've equalled last station. And that was quite a nice station actually in the forest. It took me a while to spot the cave by Delta, but once I did, I think we'd anchored ourselves pretty nicely, and the second task was definitely a 0 behind us, like quite a few tasks in this event actually, before coming to the crag with Echo, and then also the boulder by Alpha and Charlie for the final 2 tasks. I thought the tasks were nice and clear there, but it does look like we have moved back to the forest, and the stations have seemed to come in pairs really with the area they're in, so I'm expecting this final station to be another forest one, and so we'll just jump into it now with station 8. I know it's more urban and they're all right next to each other, but it does look like turrets and buildings. So we're looking for the square thing. Oh no, we are there. So that must be... It's looking like Delta, I think, with the tree there being Foxtrot, and the top of the stairs, there's nothing there before the wall corner of Alpha, and then we're going up there to the part of the wall, and I feel like there's nothing there as well to finish off the station. So that is a time of 261 seconds across 8 stations. That's not actually as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was expecting it to be a bit longer, especially with some of these longer stations for my speed. But that is 261 for now. It may increase though, as I may have made some mistakes. Let's have a look through it. And with this first station, what I saw straight away was there's a massive cave in front of us. It looks quite like a face actually with the eyes. And we have the paths running through as well. I couldn't quite make sense of this area. It looked like there were a couple of paths coming through either side, but when the map came up I was looking at it and I was struggling to find a place we could be. I'd seen these caves to the right hand side. I wondered whether it was these two, but then I came down here and saw that this triangle was not a wall and was actually the entrance to a cave, and the paths did match up quite nicely, so I knew we were there. And we're coming off to the left hand side to the end of the wall, to which we're coming to the left hand side and see that Bravo is on the end of the wall, so I'm pretty sure that one's Bravo to start off the station. But that wasn't the longest task in this station for me, as the next one we then had to identify the spur, and it's in the middle of the stony open ground, but there's also seemingly a staircase running through here, and this was what was confusing me a bit, as I was struggling to see any staircase in this sort of area, and I could also see a small cave back there which didn't seem to be mapped, so I had to try and picture things. And for me here, this spur is quite close to the path, as it's about there, and so I didn't want it that far up. Well, I definitely didn't want it as far up as Echo, as that's right up against the rock face, so it's probably about here, and Foxtrot seemed too far to the right for me, and so in saying that I can kind of see now there's potentially a path running through here below Foxtrot, comes up to Echo and then goes back around behind Foxtrot, putting Foxtrot over here, and there is no kite where I want it about there, so it is a 0 for the second task. I think that's quite nice there before the third task came and we got the cave, so we anchored quite nicely on Delta there, so I was quick before going off to the southeastern part part of the paved area there, and it's right up against the corner where I said the cliff was before, and I think Echo is quite nicely there. So I'm happy with an Echo before then coming off to the left hand side again. I'm wanting the western outside corner of a wall. Now looking at this, we know we're coming to left hand side and we're going further left than Bravo, so it's only Alpha or Zero, but Alpha is definitely on this sort of half plus shape or a T shape and is too far to the right, so we're going further to the left, and it is definitely a Zero to round off this station. And I do think as an opening station it was quite difficult, it threw me a bit, but we haven't done any Trailer on the simulator in a month, so I was expecting to have to work my way back into it, and I did quite enjoy that station actually after I managed to solve it. But then we moved on to station 2, and this is the one which I did put no zeros in, so we are going to have to check this. But what I saw here to start with was there's this forested area going up a hill, and there's some rocks or cliffs to the left hand side with Alpha, Bravo and Charlie seemingly on parts of them, and I also saw this distinctive tree as well as the small lumps of land with Echo and Foxtrot on them. And so when the map comes up and we can see here that we have some cliffs on the left hand side, we know we're kind of in the right place, but we have to place ourselves properly. So spotting this distinctive tree with the fence on it also meant that I was able to see the distinctive tree here with the fence coming out of it, and knew we must be at the bottom of the hill looking up. So we will be able to see this corner, and so looking out into the photo, the only place I can really see being the corner is about here. And so we come down and we see that Charlie is quite nicely placed on the northwestern outside corner there, and I think that is quite a nice Charlie to start off the station, so I'm happy with that one. That was actually the longest task for me in this station. And then we came forward, and here we wanted the foot of the earth bank, and it's right next to the distinctive tree we said before. So we're coming to the left of the distinctive tree, and the first thing I can really see that distinguishes as an earth bank is this lump here with Echo at the foot of it, and so I'm pretty sure that is Echo for the second task. There doesn't seem to be anything else here that could be an earth bank, and so I'm happy to say that one is Echo. Before the third task came, and we wanted the southeastern inside corner of this crag. So we're looking back up to where Charlie was, and we're going a bit further to the left, and so we're going to the left of Charlie, and we can see where this corner kind of comes here, and we follow it down and we see that Alpha's quite nicely placed there, so I'm happy with Alpha as well there, and it all seems good so far. Before we then went to the right a bit, and we wanted the northwestern side of a boulder, and it's just to the right of where we said Charlie was for the third one, so we can come just to the right of it, and the first rocky thing we do reach again, which is the first rocky bit we want here, is going to be Delta, with north going downwards this way. Northwest is going to be directly towards us, and that's where Delta is on that rock. So that one should be Delta for the fourth task. And then finally we came to another crag on the left hand side, and we wanted the southern part of it, so close to the southern end and at the foot of the crag. And so we're coming forward from where we said Alpha was to the crag, and this seems to be what this bit of rock is. We go to the southern end, and Bravo is at the foot on the southern end. So we were happy to say that one was Bravo to finish off the station, and I do think this was a no zero station, which I did quite like. It was quite a difficult area to place us. Some of the corners on the crags weren't too distinct, but having the controls on them helped, and I think having a zero there might have been quite difficult. So well done if you did manage to get that station right. I thought it was very good. Before moving on to station 3, we came a bit more urban here into the town, and the first thing I saw here was there's a building, and there's an archway actually down here by Alpha, and a couple of paths running round what seems to be a hill. So we get the map, and we can see there is a sort of building shape here and an archway to the left hand side with the canopy. So I was happy to anchor myself straight away there, as there is nowhere else on the map we could be. And so looking here, we want the end of the building closest to us, and we actually want the northeastern inside corner of the paved area there. So we're looking at this end of the building, looking at the paved area, going into the northeastern corner, and seeing that Bravo is quite nicely placed there to start off the station. So that was quite a nice quick Bravo to start us off. But then I slowed up thinking about the second task here as we go back, and we want the eastern inside corner of some paved area, and we're going further back than the building, so we are ruling out all of the kites but Delta, and we have to decide whether Delta's in the right place. But looking at this sort of area, if we're stood maybe here, the building's going to be in the way of the spot we actually want, and you can also see a small kink here by some stairs potentially, and if we zoom in you can see there's some stairs just disappearing on the right hand side of Delta, Delta, and Delta's in a corner which does seem to match this description on the edge of the circle, meaning that Delta is not in the right place, and this is in fact a 0 for the second task. So well done if you did manage to spot that. That was by far the longest task for me in this station. But we then moved on to the third task here. We came forward and wanted the northern end of a wall, and with north going to the left, we want the left end of the wall as we're looking at it. And you can see that if the building's on this bit of paved area, we want the bit of paved area further up, which is the bit we're actually stood on, and then we want to follow it round until this fence becomes a wall, and we're following it round, and we can see it becomes a wall there with Foxtrot quite nicely lent on the end of it. So I'm happy to say that that one is Foxtrot for the third task as well. I was going fairly quick by this point before going down to the northeastern inside corner of the paved area again, and this time it's by the archway. So we do go all the way down into this archway, which you can see there, and the northeastern inside corner of the paved area is this side of the archway on the left hand side. So we're coming this side of the archway, going to the left hand side, and Alpha's quite nicely placed there behind a bin, just holding it up, but it's definitely there, and I'm happy to say Alpha is the answer to that fourth task. And then finally we went all the way to the right hand side again, wanting the top of a wall, and it maybe would have been nice to use a eastern arrow or a southeastern arrow in this scenario just to distinguish which wall it is, because there's three here, but it's this wall, and it's going to be on the same level as the wall that comes out of the building, which is where Charlie is. So we're following it round to the right, and the only plausible kite is Echo, but it's definitely too high in relation to Charlie, so it can't be Echo. We've already used Foxtrot, and it must be a 0 for this final task. And I did actually really like that station. The task with Delta did make me think a lot, because it was a long way back, and I probably should have seen the line of the building quicker, but all the other tasks were definitely clear and fair, and it was a good change of pace, especially from the first two stations, before we moved into the final station of the first half of the day here. And what we got here as a view was a tree right in front of us obscuring the rest of the view, which did make it a bit difficult, but there is clearly a staircase here with Foxtrot, and it does seem like this is the only one on the top floor as the walls drop down, and we can see there's some hedge shape here with most of the kites in, and Bravo does seem to be in the woodland further back. So we get the map, and here we want the northwestern inside corner of the open land, and my thoughts were immediately here, we can't see this, but not because of the correct reason we can't see this, because I saw all the shrubbery around here and thought it's maybe this area instead, as looking down here it's just a load of trees. However, I can see that the yellow has changed, and so it's rough open land rather than open land, and I could agree that that is now the right bit. But I was originally looking at this bit and thinking it's too far to the left hand side. However, in knowing that this is the area in front of us with Alpha being there, we're following it all the way round. Foxtrot must be up here by the staircase, and so we're going further to the right of the photo than Foxtrot, and must be a 0 as Foxtrot is the rightmost kite. So that was definitely a 0 to start off, even though it took me a third of the station to get there. It was definitely clear once we got it, and then we came forward, and we've already said that Foxtrot is quite nicely placed there in the northeastern inside corner of the open land by the staircase at the top of the turret. So we were quick there with Foxtrot, and also going down to Charlie on a tree. At this point I had noticed that this was the rough open land and the hedges weren't mapped, but coming from this side, the first tree we reach is the Charlie tree, and the one we want being on the western side of the tree is definitely Charlie. It's the fourth task here which made me think a bit more as to which terrace we actually want here, as Bravo is definitely on a terrace and it's the only plausible answer here, but I don't think it's the correct one, as what we can see is if we've already answered Charlie, we're going a long way to the left of Charlie to the terrace we want, and possibly further left than Alpha actually looking at it, as we have worked out we are stood up here, whereas if we look at where Bravo is, it's only slightly to the left of Charlie, and so I think Bravo's actually on this terrace to the right hand side of the one we want, and this one is out the photo to the left and is definitely another 0. So well done if you did manage to spot that. That one slowed me up a bit more before we had to think about the final task again, here wanting the middle tree of the 3, and because of the tree right in front of us obscuring a bit of the view, I was struggling to see whether Delta was on the second or third tree along from the left hand side. But what has made me put Delta in the end is if we're looking at the turrets up here, it kind of points towards the tree we want, and so we're coming down from the turret and it's maybe pointing slightly to the right, so that does seem to match up a bit better as Delta. Delta's definitely on the western side of that tree, and so I think that one is Delta for the final task to end off the first half of the day. And I do think this was another good station. I think if the tree wasn't there in this photo it would be a lot easier to see the area, but I appreciate we can't just pick up and move trees, and all the features did seem to be fairly clear as we went through it, so I'm happy with that station. It was very good. But we then moved on to the second half of the day here to this station, and something still doesn't feel quite right about this station, as I feel like a slightly wider wider lens might have been used. There seems to be a fair bit of distortion, especially further back in the photo, but I think we can work with this. Now what I saw to start with was potentially building at the back with Charlie and Delta. There could potentially be 2 black crosses here with some play equipment, and Foxtrot is on the corner of that play equipment. There's a tree right in front of us. So when the map came up and there was a building with 2 bits of play equipment, I was immediately thinking of Foxtrot. However, knowing Bravo's on a tree, it's a fairly distinctive tree, and really if Foxtrot's in the right place here, we're stood in the river. So Foxtrot can't be in the right place, and have I actually pictured this area wrong? Looking a bit more closely, this area which I had placed as a black cross is actually a canopy, and this is a canopy rather than a building. So this is actually the black cross which Foxtrot's on, and this building back there is the bit in the outer bounds. So the black cross we actually want is far behind us, and so it's definitely a 0 to start off this station of 4 zeros. So we are going to check them all, and we reached the task which took me ages to do, being this second task of 24 seconds, more than half the time in this station, trying to work out whether Alpha's in the right place here, as it's clearly Alpha or 0, having placed Bravo on this tree. And the thing that's made me put 0 here is this hedge, as I believe this hedge is the light green area here, and so with Alpha being to the right hand side of the area, it must be further up the map, and this is definitely a wide angle photo looking at it, because if we're looking straight down there, this bit seems to be coming across to the right rather than the left. However, I do think the bridge is out the photo here, and this one is definitely a 0 in the end. I possibly could have done that a lot quicker, but the angle was throwing me, and I would have potentially wanted to be warned about that, but I don't think that hindered the rest of the tasks. As we can see, my pace was fairly consistent going into the third task, and here we wanted the eastern side of a thicket, and it's by the building which we said Charlie and Delta are on. But if we actually use the zoom to see it, you can actually see the thicket which we want with Delta on it, and Delta is definitely on the eastern side of that thicket. So Delta's definitely not on the building, it's on the thicket instead, and that was Delta for the third task. Well done if you didn't put 0 3 times, but I do think it was definitely 2 more zeros now, as we came to a distinctive tree right up against the riverbank, and you would have been debating Echo here. However, we do remember from the first task that Bravo is on this tree here, so the play equipment of Foxtrot is here, and so the tree that Echo's on must be this tree, which is miles out the circle, and this is another 0. And then finally we were very quick with this task to round off the station, wanting the northern outside corner of a fence, and the way I solved this was basically saying that Delta is on the thicket, Charlie is very close to Delta, it's not all the way over here, and I do think the corner of the fence is there, which is miles away from any of the kites, and it was quite a clear 0 to finish off the station, which definitely had 4 zeros in it in the end. And I've only ever seen this once before. It is a rarity, as I think having a lot of zeros can be a detriment at times, and I do think maybe having the second task not as a 0 might have been a bit better there and caused for a bit less confusion, as I think that could have been the slowest task in this station, and people just pressing 0 very quickly would have got a good time potentially there. But overall, I think other than the wide angle lens, it was a good station. And then that did bring us into station 6 here, which was another more urban area, moving back towards the castle. And here we've got a lot more walls, so what we're going to use to distinguish ourselves, well, there is definitely a distinctive tree in front of us, another one obscuring the view, which is very kind of them. And then we can see that 4 kites are on a sort of top level, and there seems to be a small turret shape by Charlie, and then we go down to another level and there's another corner in a wall. So we're looking for places we could be on the map, and the only place I can really spot we could be is this area here. You can see the square turret, there's some stairs coming down where Delta is, a distinctive tree right in front of us, everything's matching up. We go into the right hand side a bit, and we want the southwestern end of the wall. Just coming down from up here, we go down, we can see the corner where Foxtrot is. Coming to the left, we get Echo in the southwestern end of that wall. So I was happy to open up that station with an Echo before the second task came, and I was thrown quite a bit as we went a long way away from where I originally placed us. But we did go a long way away, and I was correct in the placing. After checking a bit, we could see that this was the only place that could match, and so this area we want is a long way down to the left hand side of the photo, and it's definitely a 0 for the second task. So well done if you did manage to get that quicker. I think that could have thrown quite a lot of you. Before we then came to the third task, and we came forward to where the distinctive tree was that we placed ourselves on straight away, and we want the eastern edge of the staircase. And so if we're going slightly left of the tree, we do come quite nicely to Bravo as the answer to the third task. I don't think that needs any more explanation, that's definitely a Bravo. Before the fourth task came, and we got even quicker as we jumped further down the hill, and having placed ourselves quite nicely, especially with this square turret. Actually, I think it was the key point here for this station. We know this must be an another 0 as we're a lot further down the hill. And then finally we got even quicker for this final task, being the quickest one, coming up the hill, and we want the southwestern side of the thicket back on the level we are on, slightly to the left of Bravo as well. And I think Alpha's very nicely placed there on the correct side of the thicket we do want in this open area. So I was happy to end off that station with an Alpha, and there were another 2 zeros in that station. I think we're averaging about 2 zeros per station now, especially with the 4 0 station in the previous station. And I do think that was another good one which could have thrown quite a few, especially going back and forth up and down the hill. And that added a lot of doubt in our mind coming to the penultimate station of the day, which we moved back to the forest for. And if you weren't expecting that, you would have been thrown as well with the different terrain. But what can we see here? Well, there's a massive cliff face again on the left hand side where Bravo is, and there does seem to be a small rock pillar here as well with Delta and some more lumps around. But when the map came up and we wanted a cave, and there seems to be a load of cliffs with some bare rock around in the area we do want, I was immediately thinking we were in the right place. I just wasn't quite sure which kite it was. But we look around and we can see there's another crag down here, and that does seem to match up quite nicely with Echo. We go up here to where Delta is. It looks in about the right position, and then we notice there is a cave on the map, and there does seem to be a small cave there where Delta is. So I was happy to say that one was Delta to start off the station eventually. I think this being my joint quickest station of the day, I actually found it a bit easier than I was expecting, but for me I was quite happy with that one. And then for the second task, we came forward again down the map, and we wanted the northwestern side of Boulder. And your eyes are drawn to Alpha here straight away as we're coming forward and to the left of Delta. But looking at things in relation to other things, we can see that there's a crag and a rock, and just going to the left hand side of the crag across, we do reach Alpha on a boulder here instead. So the boulder we want must be one out the left hand side of the photo behind us, and I was ready for this as this has been a common theme in this event, but that made this one definitely a 0 for the second task. But things got a lot nicer actually as we came forward to the crag which we anchored off for the first 2 tasks, so I was happy to quickly put Echo there. And then I had to think a bit more about this fourth task as we now had the boulder which I had placed Alpha on, and I just wanted to check it was Alpha, but all the clues did match up quite nicely. It's definitely on the western side of the boulder we have there, and all the other features are close enough for it to be Alpha for the fourth task, so that was quite nice before coming back to another boulder just to the left hand side of the cave which we started off in. And so going just to the left hand side, we see this crag comes down, and then there does seem to be another small rock nearby with Charlie on the northwestern side of it. So I was happy to end off that station with Charlie, and that did seem to be a good way to end off another forest station. And I do think even though some forest stations can be quite hard to do for online Trailer, the 3 that we had today were very good. And as a penultimate station of the event, it was quite difficult to place things. Even though it was my quickest station of the day, I think that could have again thrown quite a few of you, and I think it probably did for me actually going into the final station of the day. As you can see, it took me 18 seconds to do this first task, but I do think it was quite hard, as what we could see to start with here was a path running through going to the left hand side, and there's quite a few walls going to the back with a building right behind it as well. So when the map comes up and we want the western inside corner of some open land, although I think the open land symbol should probably be used rather than clearing, but I can work with that. What I was seeing here to start with was potentially this could be an area a bit further up, and we are maybe working with an area further down here, as I'd seen these outlets in the wall and seen one here on the turret. But I then realised that this wasn't on the corner, and I should have expected a staircase coming down here for us to be there. So I started believing we were in the right place, and just that this outlet isn't mapped. And things did match up quite nicely here. You can see the curvature in the wall where Alpha is on the corner, and there's also a tree by Foxtrot. So we're going just the other side of the tree, Echo's on the corner of the wall. We're going into this patch of open land, and we want the furthest corner away from us, which Delta does seem to be in. So after 18 seconds there, it's my second longest task of the day I think, but we did start the station off with a Delta there, and I'm happy with that one, before actually coming forward to the distinctive tree which we had said Foxtrot was already on. So I was fairly quick there going for Foxtrot for the second task, definitely on the southeastern side there. This third task though, we went further up and we wanted the top of a staircase. So if we're going upwards, all these 5 kites are on the lower level, so it must be Charlie or nothing. But looking at where Charlie is, it seems to be on the furthest end of a curve going away from us. So actually looking at the curve here, we've got the curve bending round, and Charlie must actually be on this corner here. The fences are mapped, but I don't think that's too unclear. And the staircase we actually want is further to the right hand side of where Delta was down here, and you can see the railing bend down here, so the staircase must be going down there, and there are no kites at the top, so it must definitely be a 0 for the third task. And then for the fourth task we came forward and we wanted the northern outside corner of the wall, which we had already said alpha is on quite nicely with the curve, so it must be alpha for the fourth task. And then finally we came back, and this is the one I had to probably think about the most here, apart from the first one obviously, but here we went back to the left hand side and we just wanted the northeastern part of the wall, so it's only going to be Bravo or 0 looking at it, as all these are too far forward and we've already used Delta and Charlie. And northeastern part of the wall means it's going to be at the foot of the wall, and it's going to be on the northeastern end. So northeast is downwards in this photo, so I'm already querying about whether this is actually northeast. It should actually be northwest, but I don't think that hindered too much, as what we can see is there is a wall, and the wall does seem to be back there rather than where Bravo is, as I think that's more on the rocky area that comes out, and I think we actually want it a bit further to the left, about there behind this statue's head. And I am happy to suggest that was a 0 to finish off the station, meaning that after that very nice and difficult final station, I don't think I have made any errors in today's event, and so this base time of 261 should be my score. But it was a very good event. The varied terrain was used very nicely. Most of the stations were clear. I'm still querying a bit with station 5, especially the second task, but I think we have managed to reason that all the tasks are correct there. And yeah, I think that Zoltan, Yana and Jan have all done a very good job here putting on today's event, so thank you again for doing that. Let's have a look at the overall results though to see where I currently am, and we can see that I am in second place, just behind Alessio. That probably means I have got no mistakes, as I did feel slightly slower than previous events, and I wouldn't be surprised if Alessio has managed to do that very quickly, but I am very happy with that for now. But we'll see how long I can hold on to this position as you join me later for the overall results. And we are back to see, well, firstly me, because my camera's decided it wants to work again, but also that I have been able to hold on to second place here, with us being correct with no mistakes and a time of 261 seconds. It is very well done to Alessio for winning the event with a score of 243 with 213 seconds and 1 mistake. So going a lot quicker than me and being able to still win with that mistake, very well done. And also Simon in third place, only 4 seconds behind me with no mistakes as well. There are only 3 people that managed to do it with no mistakes today. Anti as well, further down here, taking his time but managing to do it cleanly, so very well done to him. But in terms of where Alessio did manage to win the event today, it does look like he just took the lead in station 2 and held on to it for the whole competition, coming third in station 5 as well, but managed to get the final task wrong in the day, but had built so much of a lead by that point that it didn't matter at all, so very well done to him for winning the event. In terms of the percentages today though, the most interesting thing for me was here in station 4, where the percentages started quite high and then kind of declined a bit, going below 50% for the final 2 tasks. Now the fourth task here with 43% of correct answers, being 280 going for 0, but 350 went for Bravo, and there were a few people who went for a couple of other answers, but it was clear it was Bravo or 0 here. And in this station, this was the one where Bravo was on the terrace and we were given another terrace being the wrong terrace. So I'm not surprised Bravo was a very common wrong answer there, as it was quite hard to see the lineups, and with the terrace we wanted being out the photo, you had to make sure you were paying attention there. But the final task here had almost half the amount of people getting it right, with 172 people or 26%, with 384 going with 0 rather than the 172 which went with Delta, and actually 72 also went with Charlie. So there may have been a bit of miscounting here if you missed one of the kites, because it was quite easy to do in this station actually. But I was definitely debating 0 for this final task, because I was wondering whether there might be a tree between Charlie and Delta. It does turn out there wasn't, because we said about the lineup with the turret and stuff like that on the castle, and so that was Delta for the final task. But I'm not surprised so many of you did go with 0, so well done if you did manage to get it right. And actually most of the stations were fairly high other than this one percentage wise. Really there was only 1 or 2 low ones like this station in some of them, if there were any, and with not many people getting no mistakes in today's event, I think you've probably done a very good job even if you've only made a couple, so very well done to most of you for doing so well. But with that, we have none of my mistakes to look back on, so we can just look at the overall results of the series so far, and we can see that I've actually come down to second place here, and Alessio has managed to take the lead, overtaking both me and Pavel from third place after winning today's event. He is now 0.2 points ahead of me, so it's very close. And actually, if you look at it closely, both our counting scores, mine and Alessio's, are a first, second and third place, which is quite funny. But very well done to him for overtaking today into first place with only 3 out of 4 scores counting, and also Pavel is still holding on to third place, but now 1.4 points behind me. So there's currently gaps opening up at the top, especially with Severin almost 2 points behind Pavel and Eric over a point behind him as well. We're currently starting to get a definitive top 3 at the moment, but really we've got 8 more events to go in the year. Everything is still up for grabs, so it should be very interesting to follow this and see how this plays out. But that is the individuals for the moment. Very well done to Alessio. But if we go to the clubs, we'll be able to see that Massey are still in the lead, having won today's event again. They've now got a full clean sweep of wins as their top 3 scores, but MDOC are holding on to second place, being 16 points behind them, and then LS37 are another 15 points behind that in third place. So the top 3 are currently very spread out, but if you look at Linkping's OK, they are only a point behind LS37, and in the club competition that isn't very much at all, and MTV Season are only 2 points behind that as well. So really the fight for third is on at the moment, but Massey are already running away with it in first place, and we can probably surely say already they are going to win this series. So very well done to them for continuing their stellar performance as always. But then also for the countries, we can see that the Italians are still in the lead again, winning today's event, but we have the Czechs in second place now, who have managed to move up to second place from probably about 4th or 5th at least, looking at their first score. I can't quite remember the numbers from last month, and are now 12 points behind the Italians, but also 12 points ahead of the Finns. So again, like the clubs, it's quite a spread 1, 2, 3. But then looking at the Brits and the Swedes, the Brits are only 0.2 points behind the Finns, and then the Swedes are only 0.6 points behind the Brits. So there's only 0.8 points separating 3rd, 4th and 5th place. And with countries scoring a maximum score of 500, that's a very small differential. And really, after just one event, that could all turn on its head. So I'm very looking forward to seeing exactly how that plays out. But it is looking like we can probably say again that the Italians are going to win this series, as they always seem to do. So very well done to them for absolutely storming the competition today. And that does bring us to the end of April's event. It is, as always, a big thank you to Zoltan for putting these events on. I have enjoyed it a lot, and I do like this regular monthly event coming round. And also thank you to Jana and Jan for advising. I think you've all done a very good job there in organising the event. But with that, that does bring us to the end of today's video. So thank you all again for watching. If you'd like to like the video, as always, and be subscribing to the channel, making sure you click the bell next to the subscribe button and select all so you're notified whenever I release a video. And be remembering to share these videos as always. These events are very good. They've slowed down a bit now as we've kind of come out the rush of the first 3 months, but I know there are many events still in the pipeline ready to be coming out probably in the next few months. So do make sure you are sharing all these events with your orienteering friends so they are ready to be competing when those come around. And then as always, be commenting down below any extra analysis you think I've missed from this video, or any small extra bits you think I could add. And I will join you again next month for the 5th round of the Hungarian TORUS Trophy.